Anything stand out about your time at WREX and kicking off your career there?
I think everything about my career and the success that I've had, everything that I learned at WREX, I always say that is the foundation for where I am now. I worked with so many wonderful people who, one, they took a chance on this 19-year-old kid who was probably really annoying, was like, I'll help, I'll do that, I'll do this. But they took a chance on me and they gave me opportunities and they taught me some of the most important things that I've learned in my entire career. And I still think about those things every day. So for me, when I think of WREX, it's the people and the important lessons I learned.
Yeah, I remember when I was digging in the crates a few years ago when you were in town. You were on set as what was it, Miss Winnebago County or something like that?
No, I don't even
You were on
remember.
set when you were in high school or something. You said, "This is what I want to do. I want your job one day," and here we
No,
are.
yeah, like I was the annoying kid at like 11 years old who said, this is what I want to be when I grow up. I think I told everyone who would listen that I wanted to work at ESPN and I wanted to be in sports. And here I am.
Yeah, here we are now, all these years later, just looking back on your time there, any stories that you remember or moments that kind of jump out to you when you reflect a
Um,
little bit?
so I remember one of the producers, Mikey Costello, he and I would have this thing when I was doing the weather, and he would count in my ear from like 3 minutes all the way down just to see if I would laugh or I would break. Um, that's something that I remember. I remember this one story, like I have a lot of hair, like it's never changed. There's a lot of it. I remember this one story. I was actually doing a live shot in Rockton and I got this massive gust of wind. And like just as I was doing like the sign off where you're like, you say your name and where you are, I think like this wind gust where I sort of looked like cousin It. And I remember that. There are a few stories that sort of stay with me for the magnitude. Um, just, they were big moments, they were tragic moments, um, and how I had to learn to deal with them and how I was forced into learning, breaking news and covering those live events sort of like on the fly. I learned a lot in those big moments. Um, Mostly there's stories about the people, Heather Pick, Eric Wilson, uh, just really good people.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a great crew over the years.
Yeah,
You did a little bit of everything then. You said weather, news, sports,
I
right?
did. Yeah, I started off as like the little, PA who would literally like roll the tapes for the feeds when they came down at like 2:30 or whatever times they were. I would just write scripts or I would edit VOs. That's how I started. And then I was a reporter and then they were like, hey, we need a weekend weather anchor. I was like, oh, okay. So I did that. I never did sports though. I never did sports at Rockford. Oh,
The
wait,
one thing, yeah, the one thing you didn't do, right, is
right,
what you do
exactly. The
now
one
is
thing
your
I didn't do was sports. Yeah.
yeah, so you feel those other skills though have served you well then, huh, throughout your career then?
I
Being
absolutely do.
versatile.
I think it's really important in this career to have an understanding of how all the pieces come together to tell a story, to put on a show. And if you understand how pieces are edited or how stories are told, you're able to bring them to life better when you're part of the storytelling. And I like I said before, like WREX gave me the foundation on which everything else in my life and my career has been built on.
And just for it being your hometown was a little more, did it mean a little more to you?
It did because WREX was the station I watched growing up. So because I watched the station and my parents watched the station, some of the names were familiar to me. And so I admired them and looked up to them before I even walked in the building. Um, Obviously, it also is a little bit more pressure packed, I think. Um, Sometimes when you go to get your first job, you're in a small town in which no one knows you outside of your colleagues. And I was in my hometown, so I, you know, when I made mistakes, people I knew were seeing them, and I made mistakes because we all do.
For sure. And here we are now, all this time later. Just any final thoughts that you want to share here? I know you got a lot going on right now. Anything else that you want to say?
I think my final thought is thank you to WREX for giving me the chance and giving me the break and taking the chance on me, because it has made my career, and I am so grateful for where I am today.